What up, guys? We're gonna make some doors, or finish making the doors in this video. We'll get from where we left off to this stage here where these are ready to be sanded and go into finish, or actually ready to be fit on the cabinets and then go into finish. But yeah, here we go. All right, so I'll bring you guys in a little closer and show you the cutters that I'm using. They're Freeborn Tool, that's the company. So they're a little different than if you're doing this on a router with a bearing, because instead of a bearing, there's actually a cutter in there. So I'm actually trimming a 1/16 off the whole rail with this. So that's just something to keep in mind, obviously, when I'm making my cut list, this sizing my rails. So I have this fence, the outfeed fence is way back, and then I have this fence set a 1/16 back from the small cutter that's in there. That'll trim the tongue. And then I have this little sled. I've been using this sled for years, and I've got just a little backer block here that I use, helps prevent tear out when you cut these things. And I can take this off, cut it down, and give myself a fresh backer piece after a while. I have a piece of maple on here. The rest of this thing is just MDF. And then this little toggle clamp here. But yeah, been coping rails like this on the shaper for, like I said, years, and it works really good. This is a Freeborn Tool shaker door set. It's got a cutter back there too that's cutting the tongue. It's just doing it this way, you're not gonna get any snipe. It's gonna give you a perfect, consistent cut every time. These cutters are really good. I literally have not taken these out of the shaper in more than a year probably. Everything has been shaker doors lately. I'll just clamp my rail in here. Everything gets cut face down, and then I'll just go make my cut. Spin it around, and then boom, rails are done. All right, so I'm gonna run the profile or the groove on the shaper. I've got the power feeder here to feed my pieces through. So the way I have this set up, and I'll bring you guys a little closer and show you the cutters, but the way I have this set up, I'm using these fences. There is another way you can set this up with an outboard fence, which basically you have a fence over here, clamped down, and you have your power feeder tilted out. So it's called an outboard fence, and your piece runs along this, and then you set that up a distance away from the cutters. That's an easier setup than this. However, if you have different size or different width rails and styles, you'll need to move that fence accordingly. With this setup, the setup's a little more tricky, but once it's set up, it's good to go. So you have, again, there's no bearing, so you have 3 cutters, and then essentially it's kind of like a joiner, right? Set up like a joiner if you think of a joiner table turned on its side. So this fence is the in feed fence is set up a 1/16 back from the top cutter, the top and bottom cutters, and then the outfeed fence is flush with those top and bottom cutters. So we're cleaning a 1/16 off the whole edge of this thing, plus the groove, obviously. What's nice about this and these freeborn cutters and shaper cutters in general, instead of the bearing, is you're less likely to get tear out, because even when that groove cutter goes in and you get some tear out, these cutters come behind it and are cleaning that whole edge. So you end up with a really nice, clean, consistent cut. Doesn't mean you'll never get tear out. I mean, you can still get tear out. This is just really nice. So the setup for this, like I said, a little more tricky, because this has to be perfectly flush with these, otherwise you'll get snipe. So once you get that set up, it's good. I have not changed this setup, like I said, in over a year. Let's run some parts. Like I said, this thing is usually always set up, but I always, before I turn this thing on, I'm always checking just to make sure everything is tight. Another thing with the power feeder, so my power feeder, since I'm using these fences on here, I have it tilted in just a little bit, and the power feeder just keeps good, consistent pressure up against the fence. One thing to help prevent tear out, because like I said, you can still get tear out. Paying attention to the way you run your pieces and the grain on the piece. So like this piece, for instance, you can see we've got grain coming this way and this way, right? So if I run my piece this way with the grain here and the cutter's coming here, more likely to get tear out. If I turn it around this way and the grain is going that way and my cutter's cutting that way, it's going to give me a cleaner cut. Now, it doesn't, like I said, it's not a guarantee. If you have some really crazy grain, like, you can still get tear out, but it's just something to think about when you're running your pieces. That goes for anything too, the planer, the joiner, the router table. Paying attention to that grain. You don't want the grain to be going into your cutter when your cutter's coming the other way. Yo, what up guys? So it's another new day. I swear this process doesn't really take me that long. I think I'm on day 3, but I do have other things going on and I have been in and out of the shop. So altogether, I think so far I've got like 4.5 hours, 5 hours into this. If I was working straight through, I'd probably have all these doors, everything milled, glued up, run through the sander and cut down to size in like a day and a half. So that's kind of the timeline, but I'm going to cut the panels, nothing really exciting. I use 1/2-inch material for my door panels, and then we'll take them over to the router table and put a wrap on them. I'll show you guys that after we cut them down. All right, so I cut all my panels and now I've got my router table. I just wheel it over for now. Grab this dust collection line from the sander to work off this machine. But basically I took my power feeder off of my other Delta Shaper because I only cope on that thing, so I didn't need it. Mounted it on here. I just have a square cutter in there, and all I'm doing is putting a rabbet around the panel. So that's the back side. So then I'll show you when we glue them up. This just sits in there, and there's a nice 16th inch plus reveal around the back. And once it's centered, and it looks nice. All right, so everything's ready to go. I'm ready to glue these things up. So I've got my cut list, right? I've got some glue with a brush and sanding block. So I usually start with the tallest doors and then work my way down. For just to show you guys, I'm gonna start with this one. This is not my tallest door, but so I got my parts. Like I said, everything is oversized. Stiles are long, and everything is wider than it needs to be. So first thing, take my sanding block and I'll just hit the inside edge real quick on all my parts. Just put a slight round over on it. One of these days I will get the cope and stick set with that little, you can get it with a little round over on the middle. I don't want a big round over, I want it slight. It's just for painting so it doesn't get in there and crack. And then what I do, put this thing together. So we'll just pretend I'm gluing this up. This is where all the math comes into play. All right, so typically what I'll do, I'll clamp up this side and then I have sticks. So when I make my cut list, I write on the plans, I actually write in that inside dimension from here to here and here to here, so that I have that, or I can just take, like on my cut list, I have the finished size of the door. I can subtract 4 because I know these are gonna end up being 2 inches and 2 inches, and that'll give me the inside dimension too. So I cut sticks that size, put those in, clamp up this side, and then I tap this down to close it up, clamp it, remove the sticks. Just make sure the inside is square, and as long as my cope and sticks are square, I know it's gonna be square. Then I'll set it off to the side. I don't nail the back or anything like that. I'll let it sit in clamps for 20 minutes, half hour, or longer. But yeah, if I need the clamps. And that's it. Glue ups are pretty easy. I'll be able to glue all these up. I've got, I think 26 or 28 doors and drawer fronts or something, probably in an hour. So let's get to it. All right, got my doors out of clamps. Gonna run them through the sander, and then I'll cut them down to size. So the whole reason that I bought this a couple years ago was literally for this. Pass on the back, pass on the front. If it needs 2 passes on each side, I'll do that. But this, so 37-inch dual drum. So that's 2 drums in there. So I run 100 grit in the front, 150 in the back. And this thing works really, really good. It's 7.5 horse, so it's got plenty of power to move these things through. It's not like super slow. It's not a wide belt sander. If I had a bigger budget when I was buying it, I would have got a wide belt, but this works really good. I still need to hand sand these afterwards. I still need to hit them with the DA, but it's minimal compared to what it was with the parts just coming out of the planer. We'll run these through and then we'll cut them down to size. Doors are all sanded. Now I'm gonna cut these things down to size. I've gotten, not into debates, don't want to debate about it, but on Instagram I've gotten quite a few comments and things about why do you glue your doors up oversized. So a couple reasons. First one, that's how I was taught. So that's the first reason. Second is everything, all the stuff that I make, all of my cabinetry, most of what I'm doing here is Euro style overlay, but I have tight gaps, so I want everything needs to be perfectly square and good for those reveals to all look consistent. And so doing it this way, I know my door, even if it's glued up a tiny bit out of square, which they're not because my stiles or my rails, my copes, everything is nice and square, but even if it was a little bit out of square, I know after I cut it to size, it's gonna be perfect. I've gotten the comment that it's a waste of time, it takes too long, this and that. I would argue that it doesn't even take any longer than if you glued it up right to size, because if after I mill my parts, run my parts through the shaper, then I would have to cut it down to finish with. I'd have to take every piece and rip it down at the table saw to 2 inches, because I can't do that before I run it through the shaper, because what if I get some tear out and my piece is to finish with, then I don't have any room to run it again. So I need my pieces to be oversized when I run them through the shaper, when I'm running the profile. So yeah, so I would have to take every piece and rip it down at the table saw. Instead, I take it right from the shaper, glue it up, and then I cut them all down. So it's really not any slower than if you glued it up right to size. You're just taking one step and doing it at a different point in the process, I guess. And then doing it this way, you can really dial in the size of your door. Now, I make all my stuff, so these are gonna finish, all my stiles and rails on this project finish at 2 inches wide. Everything right now is like 2 1/4. So everything right now is, yeah, it's 2 1/4. So when that first step, when I rip them down from the rough stock, I rip to like 2 3/8, 2 1/2, and then I break them down, and then I face joint and edge joint, again, getting it nice and straight. So I'll end up being 2 3/8 here, or 2 1/4, or whatever. Why do I go a 1/4 inch bigger? Well, when I cut this, I don't want to be just cutting off like a 1/16. I want to bury the blade. I want the blade to be buried in the wood. You're going to get a nicer cut if it's buried rather than if you're just trimming a 1/16 off the door. Get some deflection. Even if you don't get deflection, it's just not going to be, it's going to be a little more chattery. You're not going to get the cleanest cut. So I want that blade to be buried. And this process of cutting them down really is pretty simple. It goes really quick. And then I know that all my drawer fronts that I need to be the same size are going to be exactly perfect, same size every time. And you're going to have clean cuts on the end rather than trying to glue up the door perfectly to size and having the style and the rail meet up perfectly and all that. Yeah, they just come out perfect like this. And you saw like when we glue up, we use the sticks in here in between the rails, and that gives us our dimension on the inside. So I'll show you here how I cut them down. I use a slider and I use the regular table saw. Before I had the slider, I had a big crosscut sled and I would cut them. I'd cut them on that. So you don't have to have a slider to do this, but it definitely helps. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is change out these blades. So I have different blades I use. I use different blades for cutting plywood than I do for cutting hardwoods, but I also keep 2 blades that are really nice and sharp for cutting doors down to size. That way it gets a super clean cut. So I have minimal sanding on the edges of the doors. So I have a bunch of these saws or blades, these Tenryu, I don't know how to say it, gold metal blades. These are 40 tooth. And so I have 4 of those in the rotation. So I'll keep 2 of them just for cutting regular hardwood. And then I keep 2 of them in the rotation for cutting doors down. And then after a while, I'll take the ones that I'm using just daily for breaking down hardwood and stuff like that. I'll get those sharpened. Those will turn into the doors blades, and then the doors blades become my everyday blades, if that makes sense. And get your blades sharpened. Buy good saw blades, and you can sharpen them and they'll last. These Tenryu blades, every once in a while, I look on Amazon, and every once in a while they'll be on sale. Normally this blade is like $100, but every once in a while you'll see them on for like $50 or $60. Why, I don't know, but it happens every so on. Last time it happened, there was like 6 left and I bought all 6 of them. So I should be good on blades for a while. But yeah, using a nice sharp blade to cut the doors down really gives you a really nice cut. First thing I'm going to do, I know this is number 6, so I'm going to come to my cut list. So I know this door is 12 7/8 by 24 5/8. That's what it needs to finish at. So way to check that, because I know my stiles and rails all need to finish at 2 inches. So if I hold 4 over on this rail on the inside, and I come over here to the inside of this one, that's going to give me my finished size, because I got 4, so 12 7/8. So I'm right on the money. And then the same thing with the height. I'll hold 4 down here, come over here, 24 5/8, perfect. So I know my door was glued up at the right size. And this, I'm also checking my parts as I go when I'm coping. I check my rails to make sure everything is good in my cut list. So this is just kind of like the final check that my dimensions were right. But if this was off, I would have picked it up earlier in the whole process. My next step, I'm going to set the height of this thing. I know it's 24 5/8. And I know I have a few doors, because these are lower doors, so I know I have a few of them that are 24 5/8. So I'll set my stop to 24 5/8 down here. And then I'm gonna bring this thing And you can check and see how square it is when you glued it up, put it against the fence and just feel against the slot down here. You know that's square and it's right on the money. So anyways, first thing I'm gonna do is, I know this needs to be 2 inches. So on the inside, all right, you want a nice sharp pencil and a little square. So I'm gonna draw a line from the inside edge here on my rail straight across, right? And then, I don't know if you guys can see it, but on this right here, I have a line that is exactly 2 inches from here to the inside edge of the blade here. So I'm gonna just line up, this line, the inside edge of the rail, with that mark there. And then I know when I cut this, I'm gonna have a perfect 2-inch rail, and then I can just spin this thing around and 24 5/8 for my stop, and I'll be good to go. So then I can check this, 2 inches on the money, right there, 24 5/8. My height is good. So now we'll take it over to the other saw and cut it down to the width. All right, so now I'll cut it to width on the regular saw. So the way I'm gonna do this is I'll just come to the inside of my stile here, measure over 2 inches, make a little mark, and then measure from the opposite side to there. So I've got 13 3/16. I'll set my fence to 13 3/16, rip that, and then I'll set my fence to 12 7/8, which is the finished width, spin my piece around and rip it to its final dimension. So obviously if I had this, I'm using this door as an example because it's small and I only had 1 of them. But if I had 4 doors or drawer fronts the same size, I'd obviously be cutting them all at the same time. So I know they're exactly perfect. The reason I cross cut these first is, there's a reason behind everything. So reason I cross cut them first is because then I don't have to worry about getting any tear out on here, because when I cross cut it, if I do get a little tear out, I know that piece is getting ripped off. So don't have to worry about that. I know I could put a block there, prevent the tear out, but it's just one of those things. If you just do the rip second, you don't have to do that. And so yeah, so now I'll just rip this thing down and then this door will be done. We've got a door. So now I'll go through, probably do a time lapse and just cut all these down to size, but I'm gonna follow that same process. You can see everything is labeled, so I know which door I'm cutting. And then I'll just make a stack of these, and then it becomes the fun part of sanding them all by hand, breaking the edges and all that. All right, all cut to size, that's it. Process is done. Now they just need to be sanded. I'm not gonna show you that whole thing. I guess I will go over real quick what I do with the back. So I do, the panel is floating, so I will get this thing centered in the back, and then I just pin nail it, top and bottom, and that's it. So then when I sand that, obviously I fill those little pinholes. I'll break that edge on the inside, DA the whole thing, sand the edges, break all the edges. I like to break all the edges by hand, you know, just with a sanding block rather than a round over. I just, not crazy about the look of the round over. So, but that's it, guys. That's how I make my cabinet doors. When we get into a stain grade project and do grain matching and stuff like that, we'll definitely do a video on that as well. But that's it. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. Leave them in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you in the next video.